All right, good this morning. Good morning, everybody. But you had a wonderful started a wonderful discussion, Chen. Could you repeat your concern a little bit, how it's
Yeah.
going in the class?
Yeah, so this is a situation only apply for me because I work as a medical interpreter on the side, and so I take this class so that I have a better understanding of the human body and the many terms there, and a lot of them doesn't apply to my work. So for me, I only care about the major part, not the tiny little things that will
Oh, it's a lot of information.
There's a lot of them. Yeah.
Right, and I have the same problem myself.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there is always a lot of information. You go through a class, and you go like, oh my God, I don't remember all of this stuff. But you don't need to remember all of the stuff.
Okay.
Because what happens next time you look something up, you see it again, and then it comes back to you, and it's like, oh, I remember that somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we're creating a framework. And that's like why, for example, in the first chapter, you have this, what's this body part called? What's the, all of these kind of framework building things.
Yeah.
And then of course we go into detailed teaching, right? So we bring the understanding in as much as possible. But my expectation is not that you remember all the details leaving the class. Mm-hmm. That's one reason why I do open book tests. I much rather have you apply your information and then be able to find it again, or be able to read something and make sense of it. Yeah. If you come across it. And to me, that's very important, because even as a doctor, for me in my work, people think like, oh, you need to know everything in your head, and you need to remember all the muscles and everything. Yeah. But I have found that if I create my own, cheat sheet, so to speak, where I can look things up, I can go much deeper with the patient. And I found a lot of people that like the stuff that needs to be addressed is not even touched, because everybody stays superficial, because we're all like, so I think that's really what don't worry if you cannot retain everything.
Yeah.
Go from it from a perspective of understanding the material. And that's why I'm trying to give you guys really good, or hopefully really good, test reviews, which is actually something we can go right into it right away, if that's okay with you guys.
Sure.
Hi, everybody else. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Good morning.
Good morning. So we're just starting to talk about, thank you for joining the class. We're kind of probably a fairly small group, which is great. So we can answer a lot of questions that come up. But we were just talking about all this material and how much material it is, and that it is overwhelming, and how we'll be able to remember everything. And I was just relating that we do not need to remember everything. And it's about learning and understanding. And then, yeah, these classes traditionally are that you need to memorize, but that's why my way of doing it is open book. So you're more about understanding and organizing the material. Do you guys have any questions, Janisha, Nina, while we're starting here, that are on the top of your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I just had a little bit of trouble this past week with the just the skull. I mean, I spent a lot of time on the coloring and going through all the materials and flipping back and forth between all of the different views of the skull. Mm-hmm. And one of the issues that I had was just for the labeling, where we get the list of terms, number one. And number two, I mean, right now there's just a lot of different materials that I feel like I'm just flipping back constantly, that I can't even tackle the note cards yet, mm-hmm. just because I'm just struggling to get through everything. Do you have any recommendations? I mean,
yeah, we can structure that. I think absolutely.
I think that would be really helpful.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Wait.
No, Nina, keep talking.
What is this?
Wait,
What is
wait,
that?
Tanisha, hold on, Tanisha. Let's do one at a
Oh, my bad.
No, you cool, you cool. Just hold it. We're doing one at a time. Otherwise, I'll forget what we were talking about. But Nina, you were bringing up the question about the terms, right? The term list first.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is that, so if you want, I can even share my screen.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
Let's start doing that. Let me stop sharing.
Okay.
Let's see if you can. I hope so. It should be enabled.
Yeah. Okay. So with the, let's see. Okay.
There you go.
So if we're going to the skull, so this is where I got confused. Are we just supposed to be using the skull terms that are here, or anything that's referenced in these two videos?
No, only the ones in the list.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a little incongruency going on.
Okay.
Because it just over the years, it takes a lot to make these videos. So some of them are a little older. And I also have taught different classes over the years. And if you go up a little bit to show the videos, like the bottom one is older and more detailed. See that where it's
Okay.
so that was actually a Bio 2 class. But I
Okay.
put it in anyway because it's nice to have these visualizations.
Okay.
At least mostly, I know it can be a little overwhelming, but a lot of it is repetition, as you probably noticed.
Yeah.
The videos, so you don't. So the reason why there's these two up is that, you know, some people like one better than the other, or it shows it a little different, or I say something a little different that it clicks for some people different. And so for you, don't worry about seeing all of them. You know, if it feels like it
Okay.
clicks, then we're cool. That's really all that these are needed for. And then if you
Okay.
go down to the list, it's that list
Okay.
that I want.
I guess
maybe-
part of why I was also confused is, like, if you go to the booklet, and my booklet is upstairs parted, but like there's all these other views where they're talking about the different fossa and that kind of stuff. And that just, we don't need to know for your purposes, or just we don't, for the purpose of this class?
Yeah, the detail level anatomy is so layered, right? There's so much detail.
Right.
And so what I do is I want to present you, like in the booklet, with multiple different views, but of course there's more detail there than what we need to know for a testing purpose.
Okay.
So it's almost like, you know, the booklet, some people use it for going to pre-nursing or going to pre-med even for like their studies later on. So there is more detail in them.
Okay.
And I did find one mistake well, a couple, but one in the posterior fossa, but most of you guys, I think, figured it out. But it's just I didn't label one bone in the list. But other than that, for the most part, they've been proven to be pretty good detail, but not too much, and things visualized very much. It's just a lot of writing texts.
So
that's where I wrong with the textbooks. It's just so much writing.
So can I ask one other favor? In here, do you have the full term list?
Yes, I was going to get you there. So if you go down now, let's go to you go down to the test, all the way down to test 2.
Let's see.
That's all right. Oh yeah, there you go.
Okay.
There's test review. So click on there. And if you go in there, you see there, the first one is a term list. So just click on there.
Okay.
And there is a whole list with all the terms on it. So we just did the first column there. See the first column?
Right.
What we did on the skull.
We only did that.
Yes. And then the muscle for the front face are the third column. See where it says muscle, third column?
Mm-hmm.
There, the first ones are the facial muscles.
Do you have this list as a Word document?
Oh yeah, I can put that up as a Word document.
So I made this suggestion on the thing
The
Or,
Padlet?
and also when I turned in my assignment is, I think it would be worth it to also save this as a Word document. So that way, if we want to like print it out over a couple, like, because it was nice being able to take notes
Yeah,
while you were talking in lab, but there's just not enough room here.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah,
if you
absolutely.
share the Word document, maybe we could space it out a little bit differently and then
No,
like,
I can put it, I can get that figured out after we talk and just figure out,
okay,
give you
wonderful.
the link. And that's Nina.
For the record, I really do like the way you are kind of concentrating on certain things, but giving us a lot. I think it's just the initial, you know, anatomy's overwhelming.
Oh, it's crazy.
So,
And no, it totally is. And I mean, even the lab, you know, last week was like, wow, we didn't even talk about the skull. And I'm like, you know, and I'm like, well, we just got to get involved and, you know, and then this week we review the skull. And so we learn more about it. And then we start going into the little bit of the vertebra and then we build on that.
okay.
It just has, and the reason why I bring more in and then narrow it down on a list for the test is because when I went through anatomy, a lot of it is like question marks of like a little different name, but the question is like, does this mean that, or does it mean that, or what does it mean? And so I figured if I give you guys a lot of info, but then we can narrow it down in the test and we can structure the test that it's not an anxiety provoking, hopefully as much anxiety provoking process, then we can learn a lot of material really that way.
One final question about the lab. So the lab this week is on the joints, the axial and appendicular skeleton, or are we still doing the skull?
We're keep reviewing the previous weeks and we're
Got
building
it.
on new material. And so this
Okay,
week
fantastic.
is a really, really big week, right? If you think about, we do this vertebral column, the rib, all the bones, if you look at the material. So in the lab, we're gonna start with sort of the skeleton, the trunk, like we start with the vertebra, and then next week we can continue with the appendicular skeleton. So I'm not going to throw everything at you this week in lab. So we have enough time that we can review what we did last week.
Okay.
Then it
All
builds.
right.
I go around, we do some quizzing, you know, you have the term list, and I walk around and say, like, write down what this is, and we'll sort of challenge your brain a little bit. And then that slowly we're learning that list that way.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm going to kick it back to everybody. So
Oh yeah, well, let's see. Now I have to share. Huh?
I
I have
know.
to remember where you were. So, but that's, you know, when that's sort of how the lab goes. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to say is I decided to probably kick the test back 1 week. All right, because that gives us enough time to, you know, as the earlier labs here in this part are a little bit more heavy. You know, we do a whole skeleton this week, and then we start being in the muscle for 3 weeks because it builds on each other. And so, you know, the material is a little bit more info heavy the first week here, or couple weeks. And then, I mean, it's still a lot of information, but, you know, if you're overwhelmed this week with the skeleton, you're a little bit late, then so be it. You know, I can always take the late penalties out at the end if it's an influence on your grade. I'm not, you know, don't be too concerned about those details, you know. That's just sort of to keep the herd of all the students more or less in line, and everybody kind of sends things in the right time, more or less. It's just been proven to help. But the other thing that I want to make sure is you print out that list if you can. I'll give it to you as a Word document, but then also look into these review videos. You know, there is the ones where I just go bone and go down the list. And again, a couple terms are off here and there. That can be the focus that you need to know for the test. What I expect is only the term list. You know, but for the most part, these videos I did in class, you know, when we were in the classroom still, and people just held up the phone, and we just did a few of them, and sometimes that repetition helps as well. So look at those also. All right.
Do you also have any, so I was talking to my friend who's a PT about the class, and she was talking about all the mnemonic devices. like the different names to remember things. Do you have examples of those?
Like the mnemonics or
Yeah, just for different.
suffixes and the roots.
Well, the roots and the suffixes would be awesome, but then also mnemonics as well, just in terms of like remembering and banking it.
Yeah, I think so. Were the ones I sort of do myself, I bring up in the videos, I think here.
Okay,
But
cool.
there might be, no, because there's not really a general list, but we can do some searching on that. Maybe there is a list for different mnemonics, because it is very, very useful.
Because those could be some good videos to like have and remember and learn.
Right.
So, but like I said, I'm done. I apologize for
No, you're fine.
monopolizing so much time.
No, that's very, very important that we have. I really appreciate this interaction stuff like that. But I do have, because that's how we can make sure we serve everybody. But I do have a list that I pulled up that I can find again, I hope, of prefixes and suffixes. It's like a 6-page document that looks pretty good to me, that somebody did at some point and put a PDF on the internet. And so I'll look for that again. I'll bring it in tonight too, that you can look at it, or whoever comes. And because that is definitely nice to have a collection of prefixes and suffixes and mnemonics and things like that. Because again, it's a lot of memorization, and I'm always surprised at how the silly stuff sticks the best. And so just keep that part in mind. I think. All right, so that's it for this preview stuff for the test. The last tab here is pictures and models. Oh, here, and if you click on that, it actually goes to this picture or this document, and this is just pictures of the models that I use on the test. And we did these right when the pandemic happened, so we don't have all the views of everything. But at least if you have this on a device and you can like go down the term list and say like, hey, this is the orbicularis oris, this is the zygomaticus muscle, and you kind of do that with yourself as a testy thing, then you should be good for the exam when it comes to it. Because on the test, I have pictures in that same format that you take the questions after the videos in. And there's pictures and videos, and then it has a blank thing and the label, and says, what is this called, or what is this bone, or what is this landmark? And then you tell me, or you write in what that is. You look it up on the list, and then you copy the term from the list to that space. And then that's the way the test is built. And so if you go through these pictures here, then you're pretty much prepared for the stuff, I think. And hopefully learn a lot. That's kind of the whole point about that thing, that you start learning a lot. So that's why, again, no, it's open book, focus on understanding, because as we go through this material, I have found personally, the more I understand the connections and the way things work together and meanings and form and function and that sort of stuff, the better things stick if I have to memorize it, or the better the understanding is. And this musculoskeletal stuff, of course, is my favorite jam. And so we finished the skull and the facial muscles last week. Did a few coloring, talked a little bit about the cell model. And if the grading is sometimes a little up and down with the percentages, please don't get too worried, because some of the metrics I don't quite understand either, why all of a sudden it drops or it doesn't. And I have the same problem with my classes that I take. I always take a class too, so I feel how it is to be a student. So if you can just not worry too much and understand that if you done your material and you get the points in the exercises themselves, you've done your work and I got you back, and the grade is done by me in the system, not by Canvas. So so if you can just keep, if that comes up, and you can always text me and say like, hey, I'm worried, can you look at that? And then I can look at it too. But I've noticed it goes up and down sometimes. So this week, we're going to go into the joints and the axial skeleton, and then also the appendicular skeleton. We have a few exercises associated with it, of course, the questions that come up, but then we have the questionnaires that come up and the labeling exercises. And then we also have a few health kit things going on this week. The axial skeleton is the skull was part of the axial skeleton, and the whole center part of the body, the spinal cord, the rib cage, and that sort of stuff. So we do that first after we talk about the different joints. And joints are connections of bones where the bones come together. And then some joints move around. Some joints, we talked about it in the classroom too, is the sutures. They're stuck together. They don't move much, the joints between the skull plates, but they're still considered joints because they're connections from bone to bone. And so we'll talk a little bit about that stuff. And in there, we talk a little bit about the different movements that they do, that the body does, like bending forward, bending backwards, flexion, extension, and these sort of terms that go through there. So the biomechanics, that is, joint mechanics. And then we get into the bony portions of the vertebrae, and mostly here all the way down to the sacrum, the back and the butt, where the sit bone is. And then we also cover the ribs and the sternum, the front bone as well, the chest plate. And the rest of the bones, the arms and the legs, the shoulder girdle, the clavicle, the collarbone, the shoulder blade, that holds everything in place. And then the arms, and down and below we have the pelvis, and then the legs. That's all described in the appendicular skeleton, and that's the appendages. So the appendages that are attached to the axial skeleton is appendicular skeleton. We don't have a label and coloring on the axial skeleton, on the joints. That's more information. It's more, I think at the end of the day, the most important part there is going to be the joint mechanics. And then when we get into the muscles, you understand when we say what it does. Muscle tissue contracts, right? It shortens. And so muscles are, other than the facial muscles are attached to bones. And when they shorten, they move the bones around. And so that's the biomechanics, the description of the different motions. So when you bend your elbow, we call that flexion. When you extend, you bring your elbow out, you call that extension, for example. And those are the things that we describe in this joint mechanics part. And so we use those terminologies a lot when we then describe what the muscles do, the function of a muscle. And that comes up starting next week. A lot of the bumps here, if you look at the terminology that we need to know here, a lot of the bumps, see, this is not that much terminology. We have a few terms on the vertebra. The videos will explain that. We have the top part of the spine, and then this is the bottom part. So we only have a few terms on that. If we then go to the next, and so you want to label those. You have a few questions. Some of these, oh yeah, this is good for me to mention too. Some of these labs, a few of these labs have questions with them. Like in the muscles, I ask you what the attachment sites are, not just labeling the muscle. And so you write in answers into those questions, and so then those are also a bit point values. So there is instead of 5 and 5 points for labeling and coloring. You've probably noticed that now with the skull and the facial muscles. I give you 5 points for the labeling, 5 for the colorings. But if there is also lines with questions, I then give you 2 points for those and 4 for the other ones. And the way that I grade, as you've hopefully, or check off the work, really, as you've hopefully start noticing, I give you points on or off mostly. I'm looking for completion. I don't, if you have something a little not quite completely right, I don't take your points off for that. I look mostly for completion, and you can go back and you can repair your work and resubmit it, and then you get the full points. And so it's often a back and forth. So that's another thing when the grade looks like a little bit low, all of a sudden it's like, well, maybe because you just have forgotten to color something and you didn't get half of a grade for one thing. So go back and look, what did I miss? And then you correct it, and then we correct the grade, and then that's how we kind of work with it. So it's more of a back and forth than of a definite sort of thing with these grades, not the tests, of course, but the other things. Then when we get into the extremities, look at that, I was still very young. Oh my lordy, I still had hair. When we look at the skeletal terms for the appendicular skeletal, the arms and the legs, they get a little bit more numerous in terms of what the terms on the shoulder blade, the upper arm, the lower arm, and then we get into the hands. There's not much in the hands that I'm going to want you to sort of know. But most of those terms that I want you to know in these skeletal structures are muscle attachments, or they form joints. That's why I put them up. So I choose them, the ones that I want you to remember by sort of mostly importance. And so the ones that I think are, clinically speaking, kind of make a whole picture, which are, of course, muscle attachments, a lot of them. I'll put that up for us. So I want you to, know, for example, I want you to know the ischial tuberosity, which is the sit bone in the back on each side of the pelvis, because it's obviously a big structure, but also because a lot of muscles attach to it. And then later we refer to the ischial tuberosity in a muscle attachment. And I want you to, then be able to reference it back and understand that. So I'm not as much focused on holes as you've seen in the skull, for example. There's a lot of different holes as well that things go in and out, especially in the skull. But didn't focus on that too much because there's just too much. There's so much, as we talked about. All right, and then we figure out with the femur, the thigh bone, the leg bones, which is the calf part, and the shin bone, and then the talus and the calcaneus are the two, I think, the two biggest, well, definitely the biggest, but also probably most important. Well, it's hard to say importance, but some of the ones that get affected a lot if you have an injury. Like if you twist your ankle, for example. So these are ankle bones here. All right, so that's sort of the routine that we're doing in these next few weeks, or actually throughout the semester. We always have these labeling and colorings, and sometimes there's some questions with it. And then we finished the lifestyle. You guys did really good. How was that for you guys? Any thoughts on doing the challenge for 3 weeks? Anybody get bored by it, or how you guys do?
I like the challenge. It was actually really helpful.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wish we were still doing it. I can get more water.
I know.
I never meditated before, but actually it does something to me because I don't know. I actually helped me focus more and just more aware of things. So yeah, it was pretty
cool.
good.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, it's interesting, right? We such routine-based animals, so to speak, and when we get thrown out and do something sort of pushed a little bit, sometimes it's like, wow, I didn't even know this can do that. And it's not that much work. It's like do a little deep breathing and, listen to some stuff, a little focus on something else.
Right. I had a question for week 4.
Yeah, I caught you off. Make sure you bring that back. Will you want to bring that back right now? That previous question?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, I don't. I'm sorry about that. I just want to.
No, I didn't mean to cut whoever was talking off. I apologize. So I haven't turned in like the yet because I have to color it. But
yes, you do.
I wasn't quite sure on what this was. I don't know.
The lines. So do you have? I try to state it that the lines are you don't have to necessarily. You can ignore. Because some of the pictures have more lines than I have terms. And so I try to state it in the directions.
So you just want it colored?
Well, I want it colored, but I also want it labeled in terms of the terms that are on the list.
So like.
Sure you have, I can't really see the terms. But it looks like you got a few of them up, but make sure you got the ones on the list that we've been working on. Make sure you got those, make sure you got those labeled one time. You don't need to label it on every picture you see. It's just one time. I want you to label it, and I want you to color that muscle.
Okay.
That way,
what is it though? Like by the eye. What is that?
Which one? The one that goes around?
Right, it's like pointing right here.
I can't really see. Hold on. Let me wait. Let me stop sharing. Then maybe I see. Oh, that
Yeah, what is that?
that looks to me like it's most likely still the orbicularis oculi, but it could be the corrugator supercilii. That's more in the front, though, a little bit more here, the corrugator.
Oh, because I thought.
So that's why ignore some of those labels.
Okay.
Go with the list, not with the labels on the picture. Because I took these pictures from the internet, and again, there's so many terms, and I kind of individualize, figure out which ones I want you to know and which ones not. And so sometimes a little random, but you know.
Okay, so I turned in everything, just not these yet. I'm gonna turn
Yeah.
these in.
And just finish those, turn these in. And again, there's always a little bit of a small penalty if we're late after the Sunday, but it does not really affect the grade. It's very small. And if it does have an effect to the whole class, please remember, I can always go back and take those out. So don't be paying attention too much to those. Just be as close to the deadline as you can, basically. Okay?
Okay.
Because we're a little late, we're fine with that. We're going to be fine with that. All right. Any other questions? We were working on this lifestyle discussion. Has anybody else had some more sharing of how it felt for them to do? And maybe we should do it a little bit longer, huh? I felt myself stop meditating this morning. No peer pressure. All right. Well, if nobody else has some thoughts, what I want you to do is that in this week, I want you to go through the 7 categories again that we discussed, that you did in the first week. Just do that again. Check yourself or score yourself. See if it made a difference, what you did, and then compare them, and then see if there was any change and see what that means to you. A little bit interpretation. Just reflect, and if you don't want to share certain things, don't share them necessarily with the whole class. I mean, you don't have to. This is just self-reflective, but give it a little bit of a feedback for the class, that how it was for you to do that. And then here, I want you to work with the class and write a brief paragraph as how easy, difficult, annoying it was, and what were the benefits, and are you continuing or not, or make a little video. I'm going to actually revise all these instructions about Studio, because you can actually just take a video on your phone, and on the app you can upload it if you want to do videos. That's totally cool too. But don't take a video of you talking, or take a picture of a picture of a work or so. Don't take a video of a document or so, because I can't see that. Anyway, so do a little bit of reflection on that. And then we finish the lifestyle assessment thing and move towards the next exercise in the health kit department. And that's home office ergonomics. And so we're all sitting around and doing work on the computer. And so what I need, or what I was asked actually by Merit at some point early in the pandemic, is to do an ergonomic evaluation thing. And so what I made a little, I think, let me see, hold on, where was it? Yeah, I made a little pamphlet that I created. And this one, you have to go with the pamphlet and read the pamphlet. I haven't integrated it in Canvas fully yet, that everything is there. But I made that, and it talks about, a little bit about the basic bodies, bones and muscles. And then it has some pictures about, how posture affects the body, basically, how we often have a curving that's rounded when we start looking at these things. And so I put some information in there. Some of it might be a little bit much still, but you don't need to remember all of that. It's just background info. And as we go through the class, you will understand some of these things more, like neck flexors and things like that. And I can also, of course, go into it and explain it to you more if you are interested. We can make a tutoring session, which bling brings me back up to the tutoring sessions. Make sure you take advantage of those that we have. Text me if you're interested to get some help. We do it Monday after this class at 11, 10:30-ish, 11. I'm a little slow usually, so I think we start at 11 generally. We do about half-hour blocks. And then also Thursday from 6 to 8 at night, we do on Zoom. And then always before class, we do 5:30 to 6. We definitely can see some people there too. So make sure you text me and reach out to me or to Sonia if you're interested in that. Anyway, as this pamphlet keeps going, it talks about the importance of the muscles and the bones and the posture. And then it goes into a checklist sort of thing of like, what is good ergonomic sitting posture on a computer, and how have we good workspace, and what is sort of involved. And this is really the thing that I want you to do. We're talking about bones, and it's like, you know, posture has a lot to do how our skeletal system is. And then good posture really at the end of the day is the position of the body that least abuses us, our joints and our system within gravity. And gravity always goes down, and so a lot of posture has to do with how our muscles are used. Like if I have a forward hunched posture with the head going forward, the muscle in the back of my neck has to work really hard to keep that head not from falling down to the ground. But if my head is right nicely over the shoulder and sort of bounces like a bobblehead, then my muscles in the back of the neck can actually relax a little bit, because I don't need them to hold me up against gravity in this environment. It would be much easier if everything would be in water and we would have get rid of the. But then again, we would have other problems. And so that's, you know, how you view posture. And so here we have ways that, again, sitting is one of those activities that we do a lot, or non-activities that we do a lot, but they come with a bunch of perils. And one of them is a postural abuse sort of thing. Or also, like, for example, carpal tunnel syndrome, because we always have to turn our palm down to type, and that can create tension patterns and pains in here. I'm struggling right now. And so there is a few tips also, like how could you set up a work area that makes most sense? And most of you guys probably know these things already, but maybe some of you pick up some tools. Or how we could help better posture sitting, or I like a sitting wedge, for example. So I want you to read through that. And then in here, you have a whole bunch of questions to answer with them and analyze your workstation. Take a picture of yourself. You don't have to share it, I think. No, I don't. I mean, you can share it, it's fine, but some people are sensitive about themselves and stuff. So I don't want you to worry about having to do that. Be as open and or as restricted as you feel. We have some sensibility to that, but definitely analyze all these and answer all these questions, and either make a video with it or type it up. And that should probably cover. Yeah, see, please do not upload your pictures for privacy purposes. But again, it's not going to go anywhere, so it doesn't really it's really individual how sensitive you are to that. But please answer all those questions, and then that should get you better understanding of your ergonomic workstation, a few tips maybe that you can do to improve it, so your back is not as tight after 8 hours of doing the sitting, and so forth. And so that's sort of one of those exercises where I try to integrate what we're learning with a real life thing that makes, that we can use, that is useful. You guys think these things are useful, or you liking these kind of things? Anybody? Any comments?
Yes, they are.
And then we finish up the week with a Padlet, like every time. Make sure, if you cannot sign in, to type your name, because otherwise I don't know whom to give credit to, and I'm going to give credit to people to put a little bit of input in. I mean, I give credit to if you make a post, but I got to know who it is. So make sure to put your name either in the title or in the text if you cannot sign in, because if you can't sign in, it just says anonymous. If you could please do that. I needed to bring that along. And if you didn't get credit for past Padlets, shoot me a text or so, but put in your name, go back and put in your name, and then I can go back and give you credit. But make sure you text me on those, because I don't get a notification automatically on that one. All right, so that's all I have to say this week, I think. Any questions on your end? Well, if not, then I think we can call it a day and call it quits. And we'll see some of you guys tonight, hopefully. If you have any questions, please reach out. Don't be a stranger. Now, there's no text all the time coming back and forth. Be in touch with me, please, and tell me how it's going, okay?
All right, thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you, guys.
Do we have class later tonight?
Yes, we have class at 6, between 6 and 8-ish. If you need instructions how to get there, shoot me a text. I have instructions.
Oh, it's gonna be at Merit?
Yes.
Oh, what's the number of the building or the classroom?
It's S210.
Yes, 210. All right. 6, right?
Huh?
6?
At 6.
All right.
I'm actually
Yeah,
gonna get
it's
little late and
wait a
get off
minute.
over
Who is that? Carly?
Yes.
You want me to send you a map on a text?
Yes, please.
What's your last name?
Matthias.
Matthias?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'll shoot you a text, or if you don't see it in the next 10 minutes, just send me a text. I have a map to send you, so that's why it's easier.
All right. So the meeting that's gonna be at 6, right?
Yes, at 6 o'clock.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay. Good.
Bye. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye.